Hi there, I'm John of John's Carnivorous Plants, and this is my indoor nursery. Today we are going to talk about how to know your medium is decomposing. Now let's see here. I had a nasty pot sitting over here. There we go. I intentionally saved this pot for this video, okay? Because this is a older pot that's about 2 to 3 years old. So I get asked often like, oh, how do you know when to repot a carnivorous plant? So if we were to break down this right here, you'll notice that whenever peat moss breaks down over time, it's kind of hard to see on the camera. Come on, focus in there, buddy. Yeah, it's not focusing as well as I would like. But as peat moss breaks down, it definitely gets a much different texture than fresh peat. So let me grab some of my fresh pot down here. It's kind of a compare and contrast. Oh, it's not focusing in well. I'm so sorry, guys. But as you can see, like, it's a lot more lighter. It's a lot more fluffier. It's more composed, is the best way I could put it. Like, you can actually see that it is much more put together. But as peat breaks down, it becomes humus. And humus is a lot more acidic than peat and is not a very good substrate for carnivorous plants because it does compact a lot more and over time becomes a lot more disgusting. Now, that is the primary reason why you need to repot frequently, especially if you're using peat perlite, is because you will build up humus, which then builds up humic acid and will eventually start to, have negative effects on your roots of your plants because they cannot handle the ever increasing acidity. Even though they are acid loving plants, like they want some level of acidity to their soil, at a certain point, it just becomes too acidic for even them and starts, wiping them out. And that's why it's very important, replace the medium. Now, if you are not watering correctly, the best way to call it out, you'll notice an anaerobic environment will build up in your pots. And what that means is that because there's not a constant level of oxygen being pulled into the soil, the medium, as the water level is rising and lowering, you will produce an anaerobic environment, so basically an environment devoid of oxygen, and nasty anaerobic bacteria, so bacteria that goes and performs anaerobic respiration, which we use aerobic respiration, same as our plants, which means that we use predominantly oxygen as our gas of choice to be able to produce energy within our bodies. The anaerobes do not need oxygen, and then as a byproduct will produce sulfur compounds that make the pot smell like rotten eggs or just very nasty in general. It's kind of important that if you ever open a block of peat moss, or you got one of the little bag solutions or whatever from some nursery or big box store, etc., definitely not with any fertilizer in it, you'll notice peat moss has a very distinct earthy scent to it. It's not particularly offensive, doesn't smell particularly great, and then where I'm at, how many years I've been using it, it doesn't affect me as much. Whenever I first got it, I remember it kind of had a little bit of a mustiness to it, kind of like a damp basement almost, but not quite as offensive. And that scent is basically the smell of very healthy peat moss that is not decomposing. That's what it's supposed to smell like coming out of the bog. So it's not offensive to you. You shouldn't smell any kind of rotten egg smell whatsoever in there. And it's looking rather composed and, not offensive. It's not offensive to you. It's right here. Sniff that. Smells pretty earthy, and it's nice fresh peat moss, very, very light. It's just nice little shreds and whatnot. Very, very good smell, as opposed to the nasty swamp smell. And you'll know what I mean by swamp smell if you've ever actually been to a swamp, but it's a very specific smell of anaerobic bacteria breaking down the materials in your pot that will produce that swamp stank, which we generally associate with swamps because of the amount of sulfur that's coming off of them, and you breathing them in. Just not good. Now you might be asking yourself, well, don't carnivorous plants occur in swamps? They generally occur in bogs. So like you'll see some in swamp environments, and they're a little bit more specialized. And then even within those swamp environments, they're typically not within the more stagnant areas. Some can be. So it's like, this isn't a generalization, not the rule. There's plenty of exceptions. But mostly carnivorous plants want relatively biologically active soil that is undergoing aerobic respiration. So you won't see too many growing in an anaerobic environment that just smells absolutely terrible. Now, that is generally how I would point out to growers, like, if you're following the 1 to 2 years, you should never get a swamp smell if you're watering right. But for a newer grower who's just like, well, I don't know what watering right is, well, you're going to have swamp smell eventually as you're trialing and erroring your way through the hobby. And basically it's an indication that you're overwatering and that you need to let the tray dry out just, maybe a few hours to a day more. Doesn't take much, but basically the whole principle is that, let me get a pot here so I can show you. As the water level goes down, because it's evaporating out from the tray, the water inside the pot is getting pulled down. That pulls air in, and once it gets all the way to the bottom, you basically have a suction effect that just, you get oxygen all the way down to the bottom. This is why I always say, like, make sure the tray is dry, but not the pot. Well, the medium itself, because that you basically have made the oxygen pull all the way through the medium down to the base. And whenever you do this process, it allows your medium to stay fresher longer, so like you can very easily get to that 1 to 2 year mark to repot without any issue. Now, you can go up to 3 to 4 years if you get your water cycle down just right. And then even longer in some cases, depending on the soil mix. It really just depends, because the anaerobic bacteria tend not to destroy the medium as quickly as like whenever you get anaerobic bacteria starting. So I hope you guys have found this informative. Basically, if you're noticing you have a bunch of humans build up, which is, I'm sorry that the example didn't really focus in as well, but it's very noticeable whenever your peat moss is broken down even further. And it's like it's starting to compact. You'll literally start seeing the pot start, like the level in the pot start like going down. Which, let's see here, do I have another one that's a good example? Like, yeah, this one's a good example. So like this is about 2-year-old peat. And like you can actually see like over time, the pot has actually like sucked down into the medium has sucked down. It was actually level, about 2 years ago whenever I potted that. And that was like an old, I think it was an old P. Alaris pot that one came from. That, I repotted out. But generally speaking, you'll like notice that like the pot, like the medium will look like it's starting to sink in. Just, that's generally a good point that that, maybe I need to repot this. If you're seeing your medium suck in before a year, it's probably because you haven't compacted it enough whenever like you were actually packing in the medium into the pot. But packing philosophy is a whole different video topic that I'm going to have to tackle another day. So I hope you stick around for that. Please like and subscribe. There's a link to my Discord in the description if you want to come talk to me and ask more questions about carnivorous plants. Or if you just want to come share pictures of your own and, see pictures of other people's. There's also a link to my nursery in the description below where you can buy some plants and help support this channel. If you like this kind of content, please help support me. Otherwise, I don't know how long it'll go on for. Who knows? Maybe it'll be years. Maybe it'll only be a year. Maybe it'll only be a month. Who knows? All I know is I depend on all of y'all, and I'm thankful for all of your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Have a great day.